The miracle began on the night a tyrant king declared Abraham an enemy of the throne. His palace burned with torches, casting shadows that trembled like frightened servants. Courtiers whispered in fear as the king's fury shook the walls. Abraham stood alone in the courtyard, calm as still water. His words of truth angered the king more than any weapon could, so the king demanded a fire so massive it would swallow mountains. Soldiers obeyed, trembling, gathering wood from every corner of the city. Flames roared like beasts unleashed from the underworld. The king watched with a twisted smile of triumph. Abraham looked toward the heavens with unshaken faith. Something in the air shifted. Light grew softer, deeper. The sky felt strangely aware of what was about to happen. And destiny tightened its grip around the moment. The fire the king built became the largest the earth had ever seen. Its flames rose higher than towers, devouring the sky with blazing hunger. Heat warped the air for miles around, bending light like molten glass. People stood at a distance, shielding their faces from the scorching winds. Soldiers kept adding wood until exhaustion bent their backs. The flames roared louder, as if competing with the king's pride. Even birds fled the sky, sensing something unnatural. The king declared that any who supported Abraham would share his fate. But Abraham remained composed, untouched by fear. His lips whispered a prayer that echoed through unseen realms. Those near him felt a strange calm radiating from his presence. It was as if the fire feared the man it was meant to destroy. And the heavens listened silently. As Abraham stood waiting, an angel descended in a burst of brilliant stillness. No one saw the angel, but Abraham felt the air shift around him. Light gathered near his feet like a protective cloak. A voice whispered, "Fear not, for the Lord is with you." The message carried warmth that even the fire could not rival. Abraham smiled, knowing something beyond human sight had arrived. The angel touched the ground, and the earth cooled beneath Abraham's feet. A calmness spread across the field where fear had ruled moments before. The king mistook Abraham's peace for foolishness. He believed his fire would announce his supreme power, but heaven had already made its decision. The angel's glow faded into Abraham's shadow, and the moment of divine defiance drew near. The soldiers hesitated, knowing the fire was too fierce to approach. Even their armor seared when they stepped toward the pit, so they built a massive catapult to hurl Abraham into the flames. The crowds gasped as the device creaked under its own weight. Abraham stood upon the wooden frame with steady breath. His eyes were lifted toward the sky, trusting its command. The king shouted for the men to release him. The rope snapped, and Abraham soared through the blazing air. For a heartbeat, fire surrounded him on all sides. Heat roared like a blazing ocean ready to consume, but Abraham's heart remained unshaken. He felt a peace not of this world, and the heavens began their intervention. The moment Abraham entered the inferno, the laws of nature bowed. Flames recoiled as if struck by an invisible force. Heat melted into cool air around his body. Sparks turned into glowing petals drifting gently downward. The fire pit transformed into a lush garden of emerald grass. Flowers bloomed at Abraham's feet, releasing scents of spring. Birds appeared from nowhere, singing songs of serenity. The flames around the garden froze in place, unable to advance. The king's soldiers stared in disbelief, unable to move. Abraham walked through the garden as though strolling at dawn. Light wrapped around him like a shield woven from heaven. Even the fire seemed to worship him, and nature remembered the one who commanded it. The king's confidence shattered when he saw the miracle unfold. His hands shook, unable to grip the throne beside him. The fire he created to destroy became a sanctuary for the prophet he hated. He stood speechless, drowning in his own disbelief. His warriors whispered in terror, stepping away from the pit. Some believed the gods had abandoned the king. Others believed Abraham commanded divine power. The king's pride cracked like dry clay beneath rain. He demanded an explanation, but none dared speak. The flames reflected judgment back at him. His reign of fear began to crumble. For a king who cannot control fire cannot control destiny, and destiny had already changed sides. The people gathered around the fire, stunned by what they saw. Their fear melted into awe as Abraham stood unharmed. Mothers shielded their children, whispering prayers of thanks. The elderly knelt, recognizing a miracle when they saw one. Some cried openly, touched by the power of faith. Others gazed upward, searching the sky for a sign. They felt a gentle wind sweep through the flames. It carried the scent of flowers, not smoke. Abraham raised his hands in gratitude, offering prayers to the Almighty. His calm presence soothed every trembling heart. The miracle changed the crowd forever. They would pass this story to generations unborn, and none would forget the fire that surrendered to faith. Though invisible to human eyes, angels filled the fire that day. They stood around Abraham in rings of radiant protection. Their wings shimmered like sunlit glass. Every feather glowed with light that dissolved heat. The angels whispered blessings that turned sparks into blossoms. Their presence held the garden stable within the inferno. Heaven itself had descended to witness the moment. The flames dared not touch Abraham while angels kept watch. Their voices harmonized in a sound only prophets could hear. Abraham felt surrounded by divine companionship. He understood he was not alone in the fire. And the angels understood they were guarding history, for this miracle would become an eternal testament. As Abraham walked freely inside the garden, the king realized his defeat. No weapon could silence a man protected by heaven. No throne could overpower divine decree. The king's pride burned hotter than the fire itself, but only his arrogance was consumed, not Abraham. Soldiers began lowering their weapons. The people withdrew their loyalty from the king. Fear no longer controlled their hearts. The fire became a symbol of truth overcoming tyranny. Abraham emerged without a single burn or bruise. His clothes carried the scent of blossoms, not smoke. And the king's empire trembled under the weight of a single miracle. For power built on fear cannot survive when truth takes flame. When Abraham stepped out of the flames, the world changed forever. The garden vanished, the fire returned to ash, and silence filled the air. But the miracle remained etched in every witness's soul. Abraham walked calmly past the stunned soldiers, past the trembling king, past the crowd that knelt in awe. His steps carried the strength of divine protection. His voice carried the weight of unshakable faith. He became a living symbol of trust in the Almighty. And his miracle echoed through the centuries, for he proved that fire cannot touch those guarded by heaven. And that true faith defies every earthly power. The world would forever remember the prophet who walked into fire and walked out untouched. If this journey into the origins of creation has inspired you, be sure to subscribe to the Spiritual Sphere today. Here, we explore divine mysteries, ancient wisdom, and spiritual truths that awaken the soul. Every video opens a new doorway into understanding the unseen world and your place within it. Join our growing community of seekers and step deeper into the light of spiritual discovery. Your path to higher knowledge begins here.